We took the risks, we gambled, and we won. So, I'm very proud that you will see in the future motherships like these and many others. We will see rockets racing each other, but most importantly, we'll see America's regaining scientific and space leadership with our partners, with our private sector partners. I would like to now present to the president of Virgin Galactic, my friend Will, who's a history buff. And I hope you like the conquistadores that were just here. Weren't they good looking? Look at them over there. History, New Mexico, Spain, Native Americans, Hispanic, Anglo culture, the beauty of the Camino Real, history, past and future, with science and technology of the future. And I would like to present a letter that was written by a former governor in New Mexico in the 60s. And this letter was written to a young American president by the name of John F. Kennedy. And it was a letter from a young New Mexico governor by the name of Jack Campbell. And Jack Campbell in this letter says New Mexico should be the site of commercial space, and that commercial space has to be part of our national space effort, the government side. And today, that dream becomes reality. So to Will and Virgin Galactic, from your New Mexico partner, I'd like to present this historic letter from Governor Campbell to President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, America's father of space.
Thank you, Governor. We have many wonderful partners at Spaceport America, but one of our most celebrated is Virgin Galactic. Please welcome Will Whitehorn, President of Virgin Galactic.
Well, good morning, New Mexico. It's a beautiful day here. It's a day that actually symbolizes one of the reasons that we chose Spaceport America as the launch site and worldwide headquarters for Virgin Galactic in the future. One of the reasons that New Mexico has a real place in the future of space is exactly what you see around you. It's not overpopulated. One of the other reasons that this environment is perfect for space is the weather. At Cape Canaveral, NASA has constant problems trying to launch into space during the seasons when the hurricanes blow, the tropical storms are there, and thunderheads rise up in a few hours' notice. Here you get a little more notice of that. And it's possible to fly here with the kind of system that we're developing, an air launch system, at least 330 to 340 days a year out of 365. But there's another reason why we chose New Mexico. We chose New Mexico because of the vision of the governor, the vision of people like Rick Homans, who was one of the first people I met in the process of looking at where we were going to site our spaceport, and the vision that the people of New Mexico have had to know that they have a future in space. A future that goes back to 1945 and White Sands, goes back to the V2s, which, having made a rather unwelcome visit to London in 1944, were shipped here in 1945. And we were quite glad to see the back of them, I have to tell you. But those V2s launched into space from here. They were in space long before anybody else was. One of the first times I came to New Mexico, I was shown a film. The first ever film taken of the planet Earth from space was taken from a V2. But it was so top secret at the time, nobody ever saw it. But it was here that that happened. It didn't happen in Florida. It didn't happen in Texas. It happened in New Mexico. Now, at the time when that happened, the US government decided to make this clear airspace. No commercial traffic flies over here. This is closed to commercial traffic. And I work for an organisation whose first word in every project we do is safety. We operate 3 airlines around the world, and those airlines have a reputation for safety which is world class. We operate the world's biggest private train company, operating modern advanced tilting trains in the UK, and their watchword is safety as well. And that's the secret of this location. It's not only the best location for commerciality in space, it's the best location for safety in space as well. Now, a lot of people ask, even now, on the dawn of the second decade of the millennium, they ask, why are we in space? I still get asked that question from time to time. We've got enough problems on the planet Earth, why worry about space? Well, the fact is, we only know about most of the problems we have on planet Earth because of being in space. We only know about climate change because of the fantastic work that the NASA Goddard Institute and the Hadley Centre in London have done. We only know about many of the other issues that we face, many of the other geo issues we face, oil depletion, because we've mapped this planet now from space. But even the things that we've thought in the past might be frivolous in space have turned out to be lifesavers for us as people. Many people asked when the GPS system was created and given the chance for commerciality by the US government, they asked, what's the point of this spy system, as they called it, that can map things on the ground to within 2 meters? It's no use to us. What's actually happened is it's not only spawned a whole new industry and made a lot of people's lives easier, but that GPS system, which no one would have thought of at the time, has allowed us over the past decade to get about 7% more food into people's mouths around the world than was possible before. Because in the old days, you'd grow food, you'd have beef cattle here in New Mexico, corn in the Corn Belt, grass in the pampas of Argentina, the steppes of Russia, the Corn Belt of India. People would be producing food and sending it off in containers for people to eat in other parts of the world where they couldn't grow that much food. And a measurable amount would be spoiled because they didn't know what was in the containers. It would sit in some hot port somewhere. But that doesn't happen anymore because that GPS system tags all those crates. And those agriculture and weather satellites that people couldn't always see the point of in the beginning, through the broadband system now communicate with those farmers all over the world on a daily basis and let them decide when to use fertilizers, when to bring their crops out of the ground, when to bring their cattle indoors because a storm's coming. So they help to produce more food. Now that's just one sort of unthought of thing that we're doing in space today that we weren't doing a decade or 2 ago. But also you look at technologies like the mobile phone. The mobile phone was originally a military system, and only governments invested in digital mobile phone technology for use by the military. And a very famous company called Motorola predicted that by the year 2000 there may be 1 million private